Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for subscribing. I am so thankful for all of the new and regular listeners that are subscribing and are writing so much in the comments. I love all of the discussions that we've had in the comments, and I am choosing to leave comments open. And everybody, with the exception of a couple of real shiny people, have behaved themselves. But the one that was on my, it was like she was like a mosquito on my comments. Holly bopped her quicker than I could, and then a couple others came on, and before we knew it, the shiner wrote these words: "I'm not very bright." Well, I just kind of left it there because I think that the first step in admitting you have a problem is admitting it. And if you're not very bright, you're writing all this stuff on other people's feeds, great. And then the other one, the other shiner, wrote that I'm just another jealous creator. Now, that is a very, very sneaky term, probably scripted by the CEO of the Shiner Club. Because if you think about it, when somebody says, "Oh, you're jealous," your knee-jerk reaction is to say, "What would I be jealous of? I live in a freaking castle, and I married Prince Charming, and I have $82 million in the bank, so WTF would I be jealous about anything?" Dummy. You get it? It's a way of provoking the person, the other person, into revealing facts about themselves. And that is what the trolls try to do. They try to figure out who you are, where you live, where you work, where you went to school, and then they go and find out where your children go to school. And it doesn't lead to anything, thank goodness. It's all scare and intimidation tactics because they feel that you are not thinking the same way that they are. And if you look at the history of our human existence, heck, maybe the dinosaurs did this too, but maybe the dinosaurs ate each other because they didn't agree with each other. I mean, all wars are started because two human beings think very differently than the other, and they are the leaders that create followers that then stand up and fight a war until all the other people that don't think like the other person are killed. It's really, really primal. And you would like to think that, given it's the year 2022, that we would have ways of not being so primal, but we know that there are very many countries still fighting over religion, over religious beliefs, and that's the very crux of why there is the war, because one side doesn't believe like the other side. Our country right now is very divided because the one side doesn't agree with the other side. The blue doesn't agree with the red. And at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same thing, but it's defined in different terms. So when it comes down to what we're talking about here, we're having a true crime discussion about a crime that many of us believe is yet unsolved. Okay? That's all it is. Now, I like to joke about this being a game of Clue. And many of us played that game growing up, right? Where you go and you pick the cards, and at the end, then you are able to say that you figured out this mystery, and you say that the butcher committed the crime in the stateroom with a candlestick, whatever. I can't remember, the pieces and the places and all that. But it was priming our brains to be able to think and talk about true crime. As many people grow up and go into the field of corrections, or they go into being in restorative justice. I mean, there's tons of different aspects of the law. I mean, there's people who, basically, when I was going to school, there was the group of us who were going to be attorneys and the group of us who was going into corrections. And there was some animosity between the two of us because we didn't think alike, even as we were in the same class looking at the same concepts from our professors. But that was handled in a way that we could speak to our beliefs and expound upon that, and talk about how we are interpreting the information in our textbooks to let us think this way, and we may or may not think this way based on our own bias, our own personal bias, our own personal experience, etc., etc., and then how to tease that out so that the law is followed. Because as we know, some police officers may not agree with the law. Right now in our country, a lot of people do not agree with the new laws coming out, or the new law being Roe versus Wade, I'm going to say it, being repealed. Okay? It's just adding up to, I can't even look at my Facebook right now. I just see people just yelling at each other back and forth and back and forth. And it's like, you know what? Unless you're in the position of having a surprise or unwanted pregnancy, you don't really need to be fighting about it. I know that when I was faced with a teenage pregnancy, which the Shiners love to get a handle on this, I was a junior in high school. At the beginning of my junior year in high school, I was pregnant. And, and now he's, almost 34, and I stayed in high school and graduated with a 1-year-old on my hip as I, walked across that stage. I got my senior pictures with my 1-year-old son. It is what it is. So when it was my time to be faced with the legalities of what to do with the teenage pregnancy, I can't really say that it was unwanted, because I've never felt that I didn't want a pregnancy. A surprise? Yeah. But, I'm going to give that example. I'm not going to give a bigger example in this discussion. I will later, as to how that was something that was discussed, and I'll talk about that later. But for right now, I was 16 and pregnant, and the one side, like, you go to get the free pregnancy test, it was in the 80s, and it is run by the people who are for adoption. It's a very Christian-oriented organization, and they want to get a hold of you first so that they can tell you that you need to put your baby up for adoption. And that's that. Now, if I would have went straight to Planned Parenthood, I'm under the impression that I would have been given my legal options. My friends tried to talk me into an abortion. One of my good friends had just had one the month prior. And when I had told my parents, I was just put back into my parents' home from the court like 2 months prior, after being in 14 different foster homes and homeless in between all of that. And they insisted upon an abortion and kicked me out as soon as I told them, because I said I was not getting an abortion. And they would sit in front of my high school, my parents, and call me a whore and a slut and everything under the sun, because I would not get an abortion and because I was choosing to stay in high school. And that was not a choice that was done back when I was 1989, which 1988 that I was pregnant and had him right in 1989. So anyway, that right now is dividing our country. And so you have people on social media who are just, coming at each other right and left, literally right and left, about that. And so I'm kind of staying off of the majority of my social media because I don't want to hear it. I know that, I've made the choices that I've made, and I never chose an abortion, but that was my choice. And that's the thing. And so I see all of that division, and then I see all the division here as we're just simply talking about an unsolved mystery. Okay, it is an unsolved mystery. By definition, when we're all talking about it, we can agree that for the most part, it's unsolved. There's the 1% of people, probably more than 1%, that say, no, he admitted that he did it and he is in prison for the rest of his life because of what he did. And he's not facing the death penalty because SW's family did not want him to. Yes, it was on the table. It was legal still in Colorado. Right now, I've seen comments that say, oh, it's because the death penalty is not legal in Colorado is why he's not. And that's not true. That's not true. When he was sentenced, it was very much still in effect, but SW's family did not want him to face the death penalty. And I'm very glad. I mean, yes, it takes years for the death penalty to go through, but I still believe that there's a lot that he needs to stand up and talk about. He needs to stand up and tell the story. It's his story to tell. Okay? It is absolutely his story to tell. And when he decides that he's had enough of holding in all that he's holding in, he will stand up, but he's holding his silence for now, and none of us really know why. So it seems like anywhere in our country, we are divided. And it started a few elections ago where people were just one side or the other. We still have a lot of riots going on, in major cities. It just takes, not too much for a lot of people to get together right now and fight and cause a lot of disturbances and danger. And we're still not over the pandemic. So people are kind of restless. And so they'll fight all day on social media about anything that they can. And they fight a lot about this case. Now, I only look at certain channels. Only ever have. That's me. So if you're listening to my channel and you think that you don't agree with anything that I say, well, thank you for listening. And I wish you well as you go and find a channel that you find is more suited to your thinking. Okay? There's a lot of channels out there. I love What's the Obsession. I think Kelly is so kind and so sensitive to everybody's viewpoint. And she puts up videos that are really, really tear jerkers at times for me, but she really captures how the girls really, were, and it just sometimes makes me upset. She has those videos and she puts those up, and they are for us to never forget what happened to these little girls, and for us to continue to fight for the truth and maybe save other little girls from whatever happened to them. If we can find more of what happened, what was brewing, we can save other little girls like Bella and Cece, and that's our goal. So I really like What's the Obsession. I love Neek's Peaks. Like I say, I think it's a Hollywood producer behind the scenes, behind the curtains there in the Neek's Peaks, just packed with information. I mean, incredible. I mean, we've all done PowerPoints, for college and whatnot. I mean, but Neek's Peaks puts essentially these PowerPoints on crack. I mean, just amazing. And it really shows you that we're not making this up. We have listened and we have turned the volumes off, and we have seen with our own eyes what was going on in those videos without the narrative that SW was promoting on her things. And that's what has to be done. I urge anybody who has not done that to do that, to look at the videos with your eyes and keep the volume down and write down what you see, and then watch it again with her narrative. Okay? If only the Hamburglar would have done that. I mean, I'm pretty disturbed that one of the ways in which she said that she was willing to do the polygraph in the way that she did it is because she went and looked at SW's Facebook. Well, ma'am, SW's Facebook had a lot of snake oil being sold, literally. And that is the topic of today's conversation, folks. Snake oil. Now, like I say, I'm going to continue to go in a couple shout outs. We love Bonita Barbie, right? I mean, that's not even a question, right? And I really like listening to Justin Lee Reacts. I think he's a good man with a good head on his shoulders. And he is very open, and he'll sit there and tell you that, he doesn't have formal education and whatnot, but he's a very good example of showing that you don't need a formal education if you have a square head on your shoulders and you can think critically and you have street smarts. He's very smart, and don't let him tell you that he's not smart. He's a very smart man. So, I listen to Justin Lee Reacts. I watch Bonita Barbie. I love Neek's Peaks, and I love What's the Obsession. JS for Justice had a really good video showing why and how the lupus debacle is out there. I do not believe that she suffered from lupus, and JS for Justice has a great video on that. And if you are a shiner and want to come on here and have your banner that she had lupus, go to JS for Justice. Watch all of that. Watch her own words and come back and tell me that. Okay? But once again, that's not exactly where I'm going here. I'm holding this up because, when you do a scholarly paper, you do cite all of the books in which you got your information from that makes you pontificate in the way that you are. And so I'm just kind of showing you guys some of these textbooks that I pulled when I was starting to get the idea to do my own channel. So, I brushed up on my facts in these books. But other than these books, here's my little notebooks. I have notes, and I have a whole pile of other notes I'm going to talk about. And as such, I'm going to be talking about something today. And if you would like a list of my references, I would be happy to provide you with them if you send me an email. My email address is Tabitha Jane, Tabitha Jane, Jane, and it's either a 0 or an O. I don't know which one. It was one of the automated ones when I created this channel, so I think it looks like an O, but if it bounces, try a 0, please. And so that is Tabitha Jane, 0 or O, @gmail.com. And I'll pop the references over because I'm going to say a bunch of stuff that you may not have ever heard before and might burn somebody's ears, but I'm telling the truth. Okay? So, on that note, What's the Obsession? Kelly put up a video the other day. And it was sweet little Bella. And she had obviously just been coached to talk about one of the multiple MLM products that SW sold. Okay? One of those things, I'm going to go ahead and say it, I think it's snake oil. Do I have quite a bit of it on hand? Yes, I do. But I didn't buy it. I'll tell you that. I am a recovering Hunbot. I sold 2 MLMs. I stopped selling one, and I'm just about out of the other. So at vendor shows and stuff, a lot of us who sell will just trade back and forth. We'll trade products. So that's how I have some of them. And I do like the smell of some of the oils. And I think that, if you're nauseated, then, sure, peppermint oil is going to make you, not be as nauseated, but so will an Altoid. Okay? Here, there, Andy. Okay? It just mints kind of relieve a stomach ache. I really like lavender just because I like the smell of lavender. Does it do anything other than, just kind of make me think, oh, this smells like lavender? I don't know. Okay. But anyway, sweet little Bella was there, and SW had obviously just coached her because she said, all right, here we are. And Bella, what did you just ask me for? And Bella's looking over at her like, all right, I gotta say it again, right? Are you gonna pinch me? And she's like, for your tummy. Okay, what did I say? Oh, she didn't say that. I ad-libbed that, okay? I ad-libbed it because that's what I think that she's probably doing on the other end. So she says, Bella, for your tummy, what did you just ask me for? And Bella says, I need the oil. Like that, right? It's so funny because she puts her whole body into it. And she puts her hands into it and everything. And our brain is most connected to the hand. So when you see somebody, I'm a huge hand talker because I'm Italian. I talk with my hands and I talk fast. And I'm trying to slow it down so you guys will understand me. So she's, little Bella's going, oh, because you can tell it's probably really hard for her to say. Okay. Now, side note on that particular video, I said, as along with other people did, that Bella seems to have been not as she's not as advanced with her speaking as she should be, and her mispronunciations would be a problem if she started school, and that had not been worked on prior to her starting school. I had somebody, say to me that, oh, she would have grown out to be a virtuous young woman and blah, 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 blah. And her diagnosis is that Bella would not have needed speech therapy and blah, blah, blah. Acting like I said something in a pejorative way about Bella needing speech therapy. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say it is in no way, shape, or form a jab at Bella to say that her speech was delayed and she would benefit from speech therapy, especially if she had it before she started kindergarten, okay? Now, what was going on in the United States at the time that SW was taking the girls to the doctor, there was a birth to 3 program, okay? And that meant that basically all interventional services, speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy were, if they weren't covered by your insurance, there would be like a way of it getting covered. Like there was this whole, I don't know if it was started by the public health department or the Department of Education, but there was the birth to 3 program. And by the age of 1, if your little one wasn't starting a couple of words that kind of sounded like they were on track, you'd get kind of, from the doctor. At 18 months, you'd get another like, why don't we just take him into a speech therapist and see what's going on? And then from there they could see. And a lot of kids, had issues with, because so many more babies are being born that would have never lived. They are born prematurely, and they then did not have the right time in the womb to get fully cooked to make all of these connections in their brains. So because we have so many premature babies, especially, that are able to live, and babies with other medical conditions that are in the hospital for the first few months of their births, whatever. 3 of my children are premature. Were premature. So those 3 were in that birth to 3 program. And they've all been honor students and thrived wonderfully. And oh God, there's that word again. By the time they were in kindergarten, all of my kids had 4th grade reading levels. So I'm speaking from experience. I am not saying anything bad, and I resent that anybody is saying that I am saying something bad about a child, for saying that. It surprises me that for as many times as SW had them in the doctor's office, that those girls were not getting interventional services for their speech, probably physical therapy as well. Now, mine had speech, occupational, and physical because they were preemies, okay? I've already said that, but I'm just mentioning this because SW was starting to say that Bella wasn't able to walk correctly and her ankles weren't right, and whatever was going on in that trampoline where she was allowed to sit there and watch Cece jump all up and down on the trampoline and have the time of her life, and she was said that she could, and SW said she couldn't jump. I don't understand the couldn't. Is it that Bella didn't know how to jump, or she couldn't as a punishment, or she was saying, making it up that Bella hurt her ankle and was walking weird and so she couldn't be on the trampoline? A child's going to do what they can do within their limitations. If her ankle was truly hurt, she would try to jump and she would, not put as much weight on the one. Telling her to not do that in the way that she did, well, Cece is jumping all over that trampoline, bothers me to this day. Every time I see that video, I get so upset. It makes me just want to cry because Bella just went inward. She went inward to protect herself in the fetal position. So at the very least, SW should have had her evaluated for physical therapy. If Bella really couldn't walk and there was something wrong with her ankles and she wasn't allowed or couldn't jump on the trampoline, just like Cece, couldn't run around and jump around, just like Cece. Anytime we saw this, there was this whole dialogue that she was doing where Cece was hyper and Bella wasn't. No, she was telling Bella to stop and Cece could do whatever she wanted. It was bizarre. Like I say, advancing one, holding back the other. I don't really understand the pathology in it, but something was going down. So anyway, if there's a problem with a child walking and whatnot, why wouldn't she have taken her to physical therapy? Okay? Why did SW worked in a freaking children's hospital, supposedly, on the phones, so she knew about all the interventional therapies that can be done for children if they have anything wrong, especially in birth to 3. You're going to want to catch that so it doesn't, go on. You're going to want to catch it before their little bodies learn to compensate other ways and whatnot. So me saying that Bella's speech was delayed at that video, I think she was a 3-year-old or 3 something. She was not talking in a way. She was like talking maybe in more in the 2-year-old frame, and that is not Bella's. It wouldn't be Bella's fault either way, no matter if nothing happened, but it is attributed to her being behind closed doors for 15 hours a day. Okay, if you have she was 4 years 8 months at the time of her last day. If you are behind doors for 15 hours a day and you're 4 years and 8 months, you're over 4.5. You're not learning. You don't have the opportunity to learn. You don't have the time to learn and play. You don't have the time. You don't have the time. You have 8 hours to eat, bathe, go to the bathroom, play a little bit. It should essentially have almost been reversed by that time, where she was playing and having a great time for 15 hours and sleeping for 8, almost. It because of that. And if those therapies would have been in place, maybe there would have been a little bit more scrutiny as to their schedules at home, and maybe that's why SW didn't, because she knew that that would expose her more for the way that she was neglecting the girls. Okay, and I know people are going, oh no, she loved them, she had bond with them. What makes you think that she had a great bond with those girls? Okay, people have a different opinion of me. Okay, but that's okay, because what makes you feel that she did? Because she looked like she loved them in the pictures? Well, have you ever seen Kaylee Anthony along with her mom, Casey Anthony? Did you see how picture perfect they were? What was their bond? Did Casey Anthony have a good bond with her daughter? All accounts say she did. So, if it's based on pictures, okay. But I mean, I saw those girls also being really excited to see their grandparents and way too sad when the grandparents weren't there. And that speaks volumes about what was going on when the grandparents were there and what was going on when it was just her. Okay? So anyway, here we go. Sweet Bella's going, oh, one of mine could not say lemon for, he was like 7 before he could say lemon or yellow, and it was like lello and yemon. So it's like, when she's saying it, oil is a tough word to say. It really makes your tongue, if you think about oil, you have to use a lot of your upper control oil and then pull back. So, I mean, I'm not going to go into all the things I need to talk about, but I'm going to stay on topic right here, okay? So she said, oil. You could tell that SW had been just working on her, how she put all of her might into it, right? And so that's because SW was she was in so many MLMs that you can't even count, but one of them she was selling oil, okay? And I believe that she was selling the YL oil, okay? And she was using the oil on the girls, okay? And so she was writing on this because everything to her, everything that SW did was about her selling. See that right there? Just saying. Car dealers, con artists and charmers. Everything that she put out there was a layered selling tactic. So she was acting like this super mom who had all of the needs of her children figured out by their training. They're sleep trained and a food trained and trained. Okay, so she would say that, she had that Bella had a stomach ache, and so the way that she would treat her stomach ache is that Bella would come to her and ask her to rub some oil on her tummy. Okay? Now, we're all grown-ups here, okay? If you're a child who's withheld toileting privileges for 15 hours a day, someone rubbing oil on your stomach is going to make you poop. And we know that poor little Bella was having problems with constipation and stomach issues where she wasn't eating and she was having the flu a lot, which goes with constipation. If your body's too full of shit, then you can't shit. Because you can't eat, because you can't, it's a cycle, okay? We're all adults here. So anyway, sure. Especially, there's this way, oh God, it's been so long since I've had a little baby, but I think it's clockwise that you rub so that then you're kind of getting their whole little colon moving. But if SW then rubbed oil, as little Bella would say, on her tummy, then yeah, probably little Bella was like, all right, I'm going to go to the toilet. I'm not going to go to the toilet upstairs that doesn't have any water. I'm going to go to the regular toilet, and I'm going to feel a lot better. And she did, right? So she'd probably start getting those kind of cramps. Probably didn't want to go, but, the oil helped. So that probably is another piece of the puzzle, right? But I wanted to take a little detour here at the 34-minute mark, and I will mark that on something else because I'm going to tell you, I want to go on to a little story for all of you as long as we are talking about this, because the oil that she was selling was made by and marketed by, I'm going to put this out here. Now, when I put this up here, this looks like a plaque that you would see on when you go to the doctor. What does that say? If you were going to what you thought was a doctor and you saw that written like that, what does your eye say? Your eye says, Dr. Gary Young, right? Well, the problem is that there was no doctorate in front of this man's name. His name was Gary Young, okay? Now, he was the founder and CEO of Young Living Oils. But did you know that, trigger warning, that he killed his own little baby girl? Did you know that? If you don't want to hear the rest, pop off right here at the 35-minute mark, because here we go. Trigger warning includes infanticide, person threatening another with an axe, and I think that's about as, yep. Okay, so anyway, his first name starts with a D. So he put that there like that because he liked the whole feeling of Dr. Gary Young. He wanted to be a doctor. Yes, he did. He was born in 1954. And he went to high school. We don't know that he totally graduated, but it does seem like he was able to get the equivalent of a diploma so that he could go into logging and ranching at the age of 17. Back then, they did that, if you were, close to graduating, but you had a job lined up or the military lined up, and they could kind of, do a little handshake and let you go on your way. It was done. So he did that. So here we are, a young Gary Young, very young, at age 17. He went up to, from Idaho, he went, and he was logging and ranching, and he went up to British Columbia, up from Idaho, kind of up there, way up in the top of the Pacific Northwest, right? So he goes up there, and it is 1974, and he was severely injured, okay? By all accounts, Gary purports that he was in a logging accident, and he was severely injured. In fact, he was paralyzed for life, okay? Severely injured, paralyzed for life. He was 24 years old. He had meningitis. He had 16 crushed vertebrae. He had 11 ruptured discs. He had 19 broken bones. He had a herniated spinal cord. And that was it. This logging accident took him out of life, right there. He was 24 and had this devastating injury, right? One more time, just for the people who didn't hear it in the back. He's age 24. Terrible logging accident. Gets meningitis. 16 crushed vertebrae, 11 ruptured discs, 19 broken bones, and a herniated spinal cord. Yeah. All of that. And he was severely injured, paralyzed for life. But you know what? Even though he was paralyzed, had that massive injury, that man cured himself with essential oils. Okay? There's no proof that he ever had those injuries. There's no proof anywhere. There's nobody that can find any proof of that accident. That is according to Mr. Gary Young himself. Born in 1954, had the injury that he claims paralyzed him for life at age 24 in 1974. Okay? So anyway, this is the oil that SW was selling, because it's one of the MLMs that she was selling, right? And I've seen a lot of Hunbots that are selling this Young Living oil. I mean, they are just absolute Hunbots. Did you know that, they were bit by a freaking tarantula the other day, and they were able to dab a little bit of a wild oil on it, and There's not even a mark from the tarantula, not even. And the brown recluse spider one, are you kidding? Another drop of oil. I mean, and they are just going. They've got all this energy and everything because they're putting oil in their drinks. They're doing all kinds of things with the oil. They're healing their children, their animals, husbands, everything with these oils. They know exactly what to do with these oils because these oils are so powerful that Dr. Young, which isn't an actual doctor, but he purported himself to be because his first name started with D. So anyway, these people who are selling this oil, they come after me all the time. All the time. I have some illnesses and injuries that make me vulnerable to Hunbots. They tell me all the time that, that I should sign up and sell the oils, that it has helped their family so much. And when I go to these vendor fairs, I will see whole entire families sitting there with their mom who's selling these oils, just like SW did, and just like the oils that were put on little Bella's tummy. These are the oils she was selling, and this is who made up these oils. This is who created the MLM. This man who cured his own devastating logging accident paralysis. Okay, now, Dr. Gary Young, after he healed himself, went on, so that was in 1974 when he was so terribly injured. He cured himself with the oils, and by 1980 he went to school and he studied therapeutic massage at the American Institute of Physioregenerology. Okay? He claimed that he graduated from the American Institute of Physioregenerology, but he didn't. He was trying to tell people that he did, and he was caught lying. And the actual school founder of the American Institute of Physioregenerology came forward and said, no, Gary Young did not graduate from my school of therapeutic massage that is called the American Institute of Physioregenerology. He did not graduate. He did maybe 1/3 of the homework on a good day. He was behind in $2,000 of the tuition. He never graduated. Now, Gary kept on with that and said that there was just a typological error and that he did get his diploma. And he didn't care what the founder of the school was saying. He was sticking to his story. Okay? So in 1981, Dr. Gary Young decides to open up a clinic in Spokane, Washington. Okay? Home of the World's Fair in 1974. Beautiful town. Beautiful town. And here we are, 81, in Spokane, Washington. And Gary opens that clinic. And he's using that degree. He's using that degree that the founder said isn't true. And so in 1981, enough evidence was brought forward that they arrested him for practicing medicine without a license. And Gary spent 30 days in prison and was given 1 year probation. Okay? That's important because in 1981 he was arrested for practicing medicine without a license, spent 30 days in prison, and was on a year's probation. Okay? That was in 1981. So then in 1982, he still was practicing. Okay? In the clinic. And in the clinic, he has a jacuzzi that he was using for childbirths. And he convinced his wife, who was pregnant at the time, to give birth in the hot tub at his clinic. What could be so wrong with that, right? Now, we're talking 82. Epidurals weren't hugely used. I mean, and with him being as into the oils and everything, and probably she was too, she wouldn't have seen the benefit of going to a hospital. I mean, okay, he talks her into it, and he wanted her to give birth in that hot tub because he wanted to prove that babies don't need oxygen after they're born, that they still breathe water because, they're in the womb. They're not breathing air outside, right? They're still. Okay, I don't understand what he was trying to do, but this is what he did. I can't even go there I can't. So he talked his wife into it, and after she birthed the baby, okay, make no mistake, because I've seen people in chat groups say, oh, yes, the baby must have been stuck on the birth canal. No. The baby was out of the birth canal, and he held that beautiful, fully developed, fully healthy baby girl underwater until she died. He never let her up for air. She was fully born out of the birth canal, and he held her under the water. He admits to for 1 hour. He admits to holding her under for 1 hour. Okay? Coroner said that the baby was fully healthy. Nothing was wrong anywhere. The coroner testified that this was a healthy baby that would have lived had he not held the baby underwater. He held his own baby girl underwater for 1 hour in a hot tub. Okay? That's who created the oils that people still worship to this day with their YL oils. That's what this man did in 1982. Okay? Now, like I say, the people who will say, no, it was just stuck in the birth canal and something went horribly wrong. Again, no. If the baby was stuck in the birth canal, if that was happening, if the baby was stuck in the birth canal, the baby would have still had the oxygen from the placenta. Okay? The baby would have still been in there receiving his nutrients in the belly button. Okay? No. This baby came out and he never let it come up. He held the baby under for 1 hour. I don't know how his wife that just birthed that baby allowed that man to still have eyeballs in his head, because a mother's instinct should not have allowed this. She must have been so... What do you say? What do you say? I mean, honestly, because you would claw his eyes out to let you and the baby out. I don't get it. It's shocking to me, okay? Well, it was shocking to others too, okay? It was absolutely shocking to others. And so, in 1983, an undercover cop came along and he played the game. And he is like, hey, my wife and I, we want to do the water birth thing. Are you able to help us? I mean, we're having a hard time, but it's truly what we believe, we want to do this. And he said, yes. He said, right here in my clinic, I have this hot tub that I can deliver the baby under the water for you, and I can perform all of your prenatal care. And the cop's playing the game, and he's like, oh, this is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. It's just what me and my wife need. Now, remember, this is just a D, not a doctor. He cannot give prenatal care, and he can't deliver the baby there. He doesn't have a license. Okay? So anyway, this cop's talking to him, and he's like, oh, thank goodness you're going to be able to deliver the baby and perform all of the prenatal care. You know, my mom has cancer, so I'd really like her to, be here for the birth, and this is what she wants to. And oh, your mom has cancer? Well, guess what D. Gary Young offered? He offered to not only birth the baby underwater in that hot tub that he'd recently killed his own daughter in, he offered to cure the policeman's mother of her cancer with his oils. Okay? There you go. So, undercover cop comes forth, the prosecutor. They have everything, I think they had, the 1980s, they probably had them all taped up. They probably had the officer with, little large recording unit. They probably had a van outside, and they probably all had cop mustaches and everything. It's 1983. And they're like, oh, we got it. Because after he had killed his own baby and had been in jail for practicing without his license, yeah, they were done with this man. They wanted him behind bars, and they were trying to find a way to get him behind bars, but it wasn't working. They had to go undercover. Okay, so 1983, they get him on this, and they arrest him, and they guess what he gets? 60 days in jail and 1 year probation for practicing medicine without a license in 1983. Doesn't that sound familiar? Because in 1981, he was given 30 days and 1 year probation. So what he had done was 1981, in jail. 1982, kills his own daughter. 1983, offers to cure cancer, deliver another baby, gets arrested, and is back in jail for 60 days with 1 year probation. This man just doesn't quit, does he? Okay? He doesn't quit. There's one thing D. Gary Young is, he's not a quitter. Okay? Now, mind you, these people who are out, these Hunbots who are purporting that these YL, Young Living oils, have changed their lives, saved their kids, saved their family, saved their dog and their neighbor. This is where these oils came from. This is the same thing. Dr. Gary Young founded Young Living oils. So people out there selling it today, the Young Living members, are all following the teachings and the aggressions and the crimes and the infanticide of D. Gary Young. Okay? So the next time you're at a party, this is your party trick. Next time you're at a party and one Hunbot comes up and starts, talking about how, their elbow has been hanging out of its skin for like 8 months, and then their friend tried some essential oil on them, so then they started selling essential oil, and all of a sudden their dog and their neighbor and their kids are thriving, oh god, there's that word again, are doing very well because of the essential oils, and that some oil would really clear up that blistering sore you have on your lip. You say, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the man who killed his baby? And they're going to be like, no, what are you talking about? And you're going to say, do you mean Gary Young? And they're going to be like, yes, he's the founder. He created Young Living. That's who I sell the oils for. Have you ever heard of him? Yes, I've heard of him. and you start telling the story. And if you want a quick list of references, again, email me. I'll give you the references, or you can find all this on your own on the intranet. Okay? These are facts. This is the truth. Okay? The stuff that SW was selling, this is what she was selling. She was selling this. Okay? She was selling products that came from this man, this criminal, this killer that killed his own baby girl. Beautiful, beautiful, brand new, newborn, held underwater. There's no animal that would do that. Okay? It's disgusting what he did and who he was. It's disgusting. And that's just the surface of it. Okay? So, he didn't quit. He didn't quit. He served his 60 days in jail, and he had his 1 year of probation. And we know he likes to lay low while he's on probation. So in 1985, after this was a little snafu of prison again in 83, 85, he decides to try and get, a little bit more behind his name so they can't do this to him again. So he goes to get a master's degree in nutrition. No proof that he actually has it, but he says that he does. And then he went on for his doctorate in naturopathy, a doctorate in naturopathy from Bernardine University, which was proven to be a fake school and what they call a diploma mill by the Nevada Supreme Court. So in 85, he tried. Well, that was a big goose egg, I guess they would say, because that's where he said he got it. That was later found to be nothing. Didn't stop him, though, because with that degree, he had went down to Tijuana. He went down, this man was all over the West Coast, right? He was born in Idaho, worked in Idaho logging, went up to BC for logging, opened his clinic in Spokane, goes down to Tijuana, Mexico, purporting that he has these degrees because only the United States has said that these don't matter. Mexico was not going to be able to say anything, right? Right? Wrong. A couple of reporters for the LA Times heard that he had this new clinic in Tijuana, and they knew what he had done to his newborn daughter. And the name Gary Young was out there. It was on the radar to be watching out for. So, he might have thought he was in Tijuana, but he wasn't in Tijuana. His image and his reputation was still up on the West Coast. So, he's opened this clinic, and he scammed a lot of money from a lot of people coming in from the United States down to Tijuana, okay? And what he was saying was that whatever anybody is suffering from, he can put that illness and put the body into remission by staying at his clinic there in Tijuana for $6,000. For a mere $6,000, 3 weeks of your time, he's going to put his oils on you and you're going to go into remission. Now, that could be from Crohn's disease. That could be from fibromyalgia. Back in 1986, I don't think they had the term fibromyalgia, but any number of things. Psoriasis could go into remission for a mere $6,000 and 3 weeks of him putting his oils on you in Tijuana. Now, here's this. As long as you're already in for $6,000, why not go ahead and do the 10? Because with the $10,000 and 3 weeks of your time, he can cure you of anything with his oils. Okay? Now, when I say anything, he was a reasonable man. Okay? Here's the clicker. You ready for this one? Hold, please. I needed to take a drink of Gatorade for this one. Now, okay. Gary only had a 90% cure rate for, you ready, guys? Drum roll, please. Drum roll, please. Gary Young had a 90% cure rate for lupus. Okay? Sorry for anybody who had headphones in, but this is where it all comes together. Okay? I am sure that SW followed the teachings of Gary Young for his ability to cure lupus. Okay? Because that was a huge way for her to say that this oil is a good thing to buy, because she herself had lupus, which we don't believe she had lupus. But if she could sell products that she could say cured her lupus, then she could develop more of a downline, sell more snake oil, sell more chocolate morsels, sell more of anything. Anybody or any MLM that said that they could cure something, she wanted to be a part of, because she was in support groups online, because she was offering them cures. Once again, charmers and car dealers, con artists. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So, if the morsels of those hockey pucks she was making morsels one day, and the silly stickers you wear didn't cure you, well, she's got another thing up her sleeve. She said, and I mean said, she had lupus. Take the word said out of there, and she had lupus, and I don't think she had lupus based on the autopsy saying that she was a healthy female, and that the autopsy did not include any lupus attacks usually one organ, generally the kidneys. You can't be in the sun with lupus. Okay, it's a big no-no. A medical examiner does a thorough investigation of the decedent and makes sure that all of the diseases, illnesses, injuries that the decedent suffered from in life did not contribute to their demise. So the fact that the autopsy does not state that she had lupus speaks volumes. What isn't said is said. Okay? Once again, look for what isn't there and see it. Okay? But she had everybody donate money at her wedding to the Lupus Foundation. Yeah, that's because she was extraordinarily picky, didn't want what anybody else was going to give her because she thought it would be crap, and put a little box on the table where gifts would go and said, put the money here for the Lupus Foundation, and they assumed that she would go and send it all. But do you think that she did? Or do you think that that cash intended for the Lupus Foundation was put in her pocket to get her nails done so pretty? What do you think? What do you think? Okay, if you're a shiner, this is your homework. If you're a shiner, can you please find me the tax receipt from how much money SW and CW donated to the Lupus Foundation from the year of their wedding, and possibly the years after and before? I'd like to see that, because as we all know from watching the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing, donations are tracked by your taxes. Okay? So if all of that money was given to SW and CW to give to the Lupus Foundation, and it instead went to things that she could use cash and monies for, maybe she put 20% of it in. I believe that CW believed that SW had lupus. I think that SW didn't feel good. I think that all the stress that she'd put herself under when she was being accused of embezzlement went into her body and made her not feel so good. Stress does that. Stress on the inside isn't fun. It will eat your organs. It will. Give you an ulcer. Now, let's say that by the time that she said that she had an appointment for a rheumatologist, everybody was convinced she already had it. She'd already taken it. She'd been in the lupus support groups for 2 years before she had her pretend diagnosis. Okay? When the doctor said, yeah, it looks like, your symptoms line up, and I'm going to refer you to a rheumatologist so they can get the test done, and it's probably what you have, whatever. And she Googled it, and it said she was going to die. She Googled it. A doctor referred her to a rheumatologist. The rheumatologist probably did the test for the indicators, and it came back negative. But by then she was in too deep, had already been in these support groups, had already told her parents, Chris, everybody, that she had it. She was in too deep. She's not going to say, oh no, it came back negative, because then everybody's be like, well, then what do you have? Because that's how people are. When you don't feel good and it can't be defined into the definable illnesses with a billing code so that the insurance can be taken for all that it's worth and billed, then the doctors will say it's in your head. Which nerves are in your head? So saying that it's in your head is kind of silly, because the nerves are the pain receptors, the little notifiers in the brain that say something ain't right. Well, that's what I think. So then we put this together. We put this puzzle piece together of where we say, why was SW selling the oil? Huh? Because pretend Dr. Gary Young had a 90% cure rate for people with lupus. Okay, there you go. Oh, it's getting dark in here, isn't it? Please hold while I add a little light. Oh. I'm old. I have to make a lot of sound effects when I get up. So anyway, back to our subject. Pretend Dr. Gary Young. Curing lupus, but not only 90% of them. He's going to have that 10% out there because he has to protect himself with that 10% because he's not going to be able to cure anybody. So he's just going to say, like he says he has all this education, that, well, yeah, I can't cure everybody. Sometimes that lupus is just too darn aggressive. But you know what? My success rate is 90%. Doesn't that sound good? So anyway, like I say, Gary Young's reputation preceded him. The LA Times heard about his Tijuana clinic because LA is down there and people were going down there to his Tijuana clinic, and it got back. And so an LA Times reporter heard about this and was like, oh, Gary Young, huh? Because remember, back in the 80s, we didn't have the intranet. We just had word of mouth. We actually had to talk to people. We didn't get to sit down and stare at something and talk to multiple people at once with our fingers pointing at things. I mean, honestly, they didn't have the internet. So this man could go from city to city, state to state. No one was watching for him. A very small group of people was following him. But they were good, and they weren't letting go. So, this LA Times reporter sent a vial of cat blood to be tested at Gary Young's facility in Tijuana. He did testing for $60 to tell you what he could do for you at his Tijuana clinic. Now, asterisk on the cat blood. Okay? The reporter had a veterinarian give him this vial of cat blood. No cats were harmed in the investigation of pretend Dr. Gary Young. Okay? So don't put that in the comments. This was blood that was taken from a cat, and it was a healthy cat. Okay? So there was this blood that the veterinarian and the reporter, they'd sent this down. So they sent this down to pretend Dr. Gary Young in Tijuana. And for a mere $60, they had pretend Dr. Gary Young come back with this vial of cat blood that they pretended was human, okay? The reporter said, oh, can you test my blood? Something's going on. Okay, but it's not actually cat blood. So pretend Dr. Gary Young doesn't even realize that this is not human blood, that it's cat blood. And in fact tells the reporter that he has an aggressive cancer. That the reporter has an aggressive form of cancer. And liver problems. And recommended that he come down to the clinic to do the detoxification for $2,000 a week. Not saying how many weeks it was going to take to get rid of this aggressive cancer that he had from this sample of blood that he sent down. And when he went home, he was going to be on the home program suggested by pretend Dr. Gary Young for $490 a week, which would include vitamins and supplements provided by pretend Dr. Gary Young. Okay? Couldn't even determine it wasn't freaking human blood. Okay? So in other words, he wasn't doing anything with the blood. He would just have these people send it in, and he would write it back, and he would get them to come down to the clinic, and he'd pretend to cure what he pretended that they had, and the pretend Dr. Gary Young got a lot of cash. Okay? So, this reporter tells another reporter about it, and the other reporter says, hey, I'm going to do the same thing. We got something big going on here. Okay? So this reporter sends down some blood from a chicken. Again, from a vet. No chickens or cats were harmed in the investigation from the LA Times reporters. Okay, I don't want to see that in the comment. Okay, I'm an animal lover. I would not support or discuss anything about people running around taking blood from cats or chickens. Okay. So anyway, this reporter sends down the chicken blood for the $60 fee. The results came back that the blood, assumed to be human, remember, says that there's inflammation of the liver and that the person whose blood was sent has pre-lymphoma. What is pre-lymphoma? Okay, you either have lymphoma or you don't. Kind of like if you're pregnant or not. You're not pre-pregnant. Goodness sake. So, same recommendation for that reporter as well. Gary Young said, come on down to the clinic. We're going to do the detoxification for $2,000 a week. We're going to keep you down here for as long as it takes to get you in remission. It could be 5 weeks, could be 10 weeks, I don't know. But we're going to send you home with, the vitamins and supplements. And those are going to be only a mere $490 a week. Okay? It's not going to be the $2,000 like it is when you're in my clinic down here in TJ. Okay? So the LA Times reporters exposed pretend Dr. Gary Young for his Tijuana clinic scam, and Gary got the heck back out of Mexico, and he went up to his old favorite place, Spokane, Washington. Beautiful city. And he started growing plants, and he opened up 2 distillation units. So he started growing these plants. Okay, he was getting serious about his oil growing business. Okay, And that was, as I said, goodness sakes, was that all in 1982? I think that was all in 1982, if I'm correct, because then what he did with those two distillation, no, I'm wrong. That was 86. Okay, so 86 was when he was in Tijuana. 82 was when he was the false doctoring. Okay, so anyway, he starts his two big distillation units. So he's just packing out, is growing the plants, and he is distilling them into oil, and he is just very busy there in Spokane, Washington. And in 1983, I'm sorry, I can't talk. 1993 was another busy year for pretend Dr. Gary Young. 1993, he founded the Young Living oil that we have now. All the way up to now. This is the birth of it. And I don't know if that's when it became publicly traded, and that's where the MLM aspect began. I don't know, because in 1993 is where he founded the Young Living Center in Riverton, Utah. He moved rather fast to Lehi, Utah, and pretend Dr. Gary Young is a Mormon. So, well, that popped into your head about Utah. Yes, he is indeed a Mormon, and I have some very good Mormon friends, and Mormons have stepped in and saved my life, and I love my friends that are Mormon and all that is the LDS. I am not LDS, but I have very high respect for the religion. I do not have respect for pretend Dr. Gary Young. So, I don't know when he was able to invest enough to get things going for it to become an MLM. If somebody knows the year that happened, let me know, because in 1993 he founded it, and he claimed that the methods used in his distillery to harvest and extract the oils were customs practiced during the period of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Yes, this is what he purports. Now, this 1993, where he founded Young Living, started the place in Riverton, Utah, moved to Lehi. He was in Utah for 1993, the beginning of it. But then later in 1993, so that same year, he was arrested in Fife, Washington. So he went from Spokane, where he had his distilleries, down to Riverton, Utah, over to Lehi, Utah, to back up to Fife, Washington, which Fife and Spokane are nowhere near each other. They're about 5 hours apart. So it was 1993, and that's all in that same year. He got busted again for unlicensed medical practice. And guess what? Sentenced to another 60 days. Okay. Now, this here in 1993 is a pivotal year for pretend Dr. Gary Young, because he founded Young Living, was arrested in Fife. Now, this time when he was arrested, he had already founded his corporation, okay? So when he got arrested, the foundation, corporation, whatever you want to call it, fired him as CEO. He was fired from his own operation. He was fired from his own operation as CEO after his arrest and misrepresentation of his medical degree. Again, okay? He didn't take being fired very well. Okay? I mean, imagine that. You know, you're the founder and CEO of all of this, and you get arrested again, and you're going to prison again for another 60 days and you get fired from the company that you founded? Yeah, he wasn't very happy. They fired him citing his misrepresentation of his medical degree, which he knew he was not supposed to be doing. And they cited that he was displaying erratic behaviors and misuse of company funds. Okay? So they stepped up, they fired him. They said, pretend Dr. Gary Young, you're not even the CEO of your own corporation anymore. You're out, okay? And we are saying it's because of your erratic behavior, your misuse of company funds, and your misrepresentation of your medical degree one more time, okay? Well, this was a bad day for pretend Dr. Gary Young, and he thought about it, and he mustered about it, and he manifested it, and he got an axe, and 48 hours later, he went to his own office that he was fired as a CEO from, and he broke down the door with the axe, and he came in and threatened his own wife and son with that axe, and pushed his wife down the stairs, had the axe in his hand, pushed his wife down the stairs, threatened his wife, son, and an employee with the axe. Okay? That's what he did. So he's like, I'll show you erratic behavior. I mean, honestly, he came in there with a frickin' axe. Fortunately, the police came. And so did the restraining orders. Okay? So that son, that wife, and that employee got restraining orders on him. Okay? Now, that was in 1993. By 1996, in court, his own kids revealed that he was physically abusive to them. And his own mother said that he abused his children. Yes, he did. And he emotionally and mentally abused her all of his life. So his own mom says, he's bad. His wife says it. His kids say it. And he's fired from his own corporation that he founded. This is not a good man. This is not a good man to say, I sell oils that were created by pretend Dr. Gary Young, and I can heal you of anything with my oils. Would you like to buy some of my oils today? How many oils can I sign you up for? Can I sign you up to sell oils just like me, but you can't use any of the people that we know in common? You have to go find your own people to sell your own oil to, okay? So don't be getting on Facebook and going to our mutual friends, because that's my territory. So if you can go find your own friends to go and sell oil to, then you can sign up under me, and then I can get money when you sell the oils too, okay? All right. Yep, that's Hunbot 101. Free for the listening. All right, so here we are. And here we are to 2000, the year 2000. I am telling you, this pretend Dr. Gary Young doesn't stay down for long. And in the year 2000, he developed raindrop therapy. What's raindrop therapy, you ask? I asked it too. Well, my friends, raindrop therapy is when you combine an unsafe amount of 2 oil blends from Young Living oils, okay, of which there are many. So, for raindrop therapy, you're going to go ahead and add an unsafe amount of 2 oil blends, 2 of the massage oil blends, and 7 of the essential oils. So you got oil blends, massage oils, and essential oils. So you're going to use this formula of an unsafe amount of that, and pretend Dr. Gary Young is going to apply it to your skin. And by doing this, by mixing an unsafe amount of 2 oil blends, 2 massage oils, and 7 essential oils, he can treat things like scoliosis. Yes. That irritating curvature of the spine that causes so much back pain. And me, and so many people that I know, our whole entire spine, like, Like, the doctor has said as an adult that they've seen how bad my scoliosis is, that if they would have caught it when I was young, I would have been in a body cast for one of the summers of my teenage years. It would have been corrected as a teenager, but because it wasn't. And so I asked myself, what were the doctors that were there doing when we had to put on our swimsuits that day in PE and bend over in front of them? Okay? When I said this to my husband, he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, didn't you guys have to go and put swimsuits on and bend over in front of a bunch of male doctors? No, he said. I don't know, but they didn't identify my scoliosis in the scoliosis check that was done in that manner. Did you guys have to do it that way? I'm just wondering. Is that how you guys had scoliosis checks that didn't find you had scoliosis or not? I don't know. Anyway, another mystery. Mysteries revealed all over here. We'll call that one an Easter egg, a mystery within a mystery. But anyway, had I have known in the year 2000 that pretend Dr. Gary Young could have cured my scoliosis. He could also do it for detoxification, because remember, that's how he cured things like lupus and cancer and whatnot. We could do detoxification. Okay. So later in that same year, I mean, this man, he'll get a year and he'll just roll with it. I mean, he might hide for a couple of years, go to prison for 60 days, whatever. He'll wait out his probation times. But then he'll find a year and he's like, this is my freaking year to redefine myself as pretend Dr. Gary Young. Because here is what he did. Later in the year 2000, he opened the Young Life Research Institute of Natural Medicine in Springville, Utah. That's right. 2000 was going to be his year. Gary. Now, Utah was okay with it. But they said in order for him to have his operation, the clinic needed to have somebody with an MD, a pediatrician with an MD, that did not have to be board certified. So maybe you get a doctor that didn't exactly pass all the exams and couldn't pass to be board certified so they could start a practice of their own. So you're just kind of waiting until you're going to take the test again, or just deciding that you really didn't want to be a doctor that bad. However it comes to be, pretend Dr. Gary Young will approach you and say, hey, I see that you have this degree, but you're not board certified, but you do have the MD. You're a medical doctor and you're a pediatrician, so in the state of Utah, I can have a practice as long as you're there with me. And the person with the non-board certified MD said, sure. And the two of them had a clinic, and it did tests that included iridology, quantum thyroid testing, as well as live blood cell analysis. Okay? The treatments for these things that they could find wrong with iridology, quantum thyroid, or live blood cell analysis, treatments included bioelectric field enhancements, colonic irrigations. That's not when you have your field watered. That's not the kind of irrigating it is. A colonic irrigation is when, well, let's say that you're SW and you are telling everybody on the interweb that you've not pooped in 15 days. A colonic irrigation would resolve that cork in the bottle by putting a hose up and irrigating said colon. A colonic irrigation. Side note, when I lived in Vegas, there were colonic clinics all over. Same thing in Southern California. Sometimes when people have too much money, they find things to spend it on, and colonics is one of them. Because they shove a hose up your bum and hose you out. And people love it because they say they feel so much better. And so many of the MLMs, go with that. They're like, oh, yeah, did you know that you have, 82 pounds of toxic crap in your body at any time? And if you only took this morsel of this thing or put the silly sticker on, you wouldn't have it. Oh, yeah, colonics right up his alley. Right. Anyway, and of course the raindrop therapy for things like scoliosis, because why couldn't you straighten a spine with putting some oils on the back? But then, dang it, one of those freaking distillers that he had, Gary, he's not going to be looking at safety things. Gary doesn't care about OSHA, and maybe OSHA wasn't watching him because he wasn't a real business, but one of those distillers broke and sadly killed one of his employees. Yep. Pretend Dr. Gary Young. Not saving people's lives. That distiller broke and killed an employee. Yeah. So, during this time, the FDA was on him. And the FDA wrote a letter to him, warning him not to claim that his oils cure diseases. Okay? The FDA made a real official letter with their FDA imprint on top. They wrote him a first letter, then a second letter, third letter, and a fourth letter saying, pretend Dr. Gary Young, you better not claim that these oils cure diseases anymore. We're going to send you another letter. Yeah, that's all they did. That's all the FDA ever did. This man was a, frickin' monster, for lack of a better term. Because here it comes to the year 2005. And the woman comes forth with a lawsuit to pretend Dr. Gary Young because she almost died from kidney failure. She did not have any kidney disease before she began her treatments at his clinic. Okay? Now, this lawsuit was getting hot and heavy. Okay, this woman was healthy. She did not have any kidney failure whatsoever, but she started his treatments because she had aches and pains and whatever else, and figured that, you know what? His oils sound like they could make her have a little better of a quality of life, so she started going there. And whatever he was doing with the oils, or the colonics, or his raindrop therapy, or his iridology, or whatever else, put her in kidney failure. Now, this lawsuit was just really hot and heavy, so you know what? You got the good pretend Dr. Gary Young going through the clinic checking on his patients, and midday, he decided, I've checked on everybody. I'm going to take a frickin' airplane to Ecuador, because they don't extradite in Ecuador. And there he went. The pretend and prestigious, infamous D. Gary Young went to Ecuador. Okay. He closed that clinic for good. And in the year 2015, the oils were tested for lead. 8 of the oils that are sold and were sold by Young Living were found to be extremely high in lead. Okay? 8 of the oils that Young Living sold in 2015 were found to have extremely high levels of lead. Okay, so those high levels of lead, is that what put that woman into kidney failure? How many people had been ingesting, rubbing, snorting, drinking, absorbing all of these oils, and they were extremely high in lead? They were ingesting lead, okay? At that point, Gary decided to resign, and he put in his third wife, Mary Young, as the CEO. And Mary Young, the third wife, took over happily in Lehi, Utah, as the controversy of the extremely high levels of lead came out for the oils. So, in 2018, 3 years after Gary resigned, Dr. Gary Young died of cancer. Isn't that ironic? Okay? So ironic that he died of cancer 3 years after he resigned from the scandal of his products having extremely high levels of lead, that he died of cancer. But I thought he could cure cancer, right? I thought that for a mere $10,000 he could cure cancer. I thought that his oils cured cancer, and they cured that awful injury that he had when he was 24 that paralyzed him for life, right? Right? He died of cancer. But you know what? That doesn't fit the narrative, so let's change it. Okay? Who is going to buy these oils that cured cancer if the founder of this, who killed his own infant by holding him underwater, died of cancer himself? Knowing that these cancers had extremely high levels of lead and all. So the family likes to go by the more acceptable narrative of he died from a series of strokes. Yeah, that can happen from cancer if you have thrombocytopenia. Absolutely. There's a lot of different things that cancer can do that can technically cause your death. So maybe both are technically true, but as long as they run away from that C word, the family's happy. Now, a lot of people say, now, why did he go down to Utah? Well, yes, he was a Mormon, but the state of Utah gave him a lot of tax breaks to expand his operations there. In the 80s, there were things like that for states that had a lot of land that was not being used. They would put out offers to corporations and whatnot to come down and start using the land and start businesses and create jobs. So that was definitely done. So I think it's kind of ironic that the FDA is sitting there writing these letters to him to knock his crap off at the same time they're giving him checks. You know, what can you do, right? So on that note, I would say I wrote a lot of notes here, as you might be able to tell. I wanted to remind you all of this fun fact before I go, listed on my notes. You ready? Fun fact, in 2016, 94% of the 2 million active Young Living members, that's what they call their salespeople, so SW was one of the 2 million active Young Living members. Okay, 94% of the 2 million active Young Living members have made less than $1. Okay, and we're going to go here, 2016. Okay, so at the time that SW was selling this oil from Young Living, she was in the here's where people argue. They say that she made so much money from her MLMs, that her house was in foreclosure, that she wasn't paying the HOA dues, that they were broke and destitute, and that was going to be revealed very fast, that not even the charge for her monthly Monat subscription went through on the credit card, and she essentially borrowed money from NA that CW's check would pay her back for, because NA gave her cash. So you can assume that it was probably like, hey, can you spot me some cash? I'll give it back to you as soon as Chris gets paid. Because I don't think she would just be like, can you give me some money? But we know that not even a $30, I believe it was a $30 charge for her, was it for her website then for Monat? That would be monthly? Whatever it was, her subscription for Monat bounced that night. So, and I believe it was for around $30. I may be wrong. I'm sure somebody will point that out. So I would assume that she would be in this 2 million active Young Living members that made less than $1. These people are out at vendor events, at fairs, festivals, everywhere, setting up their tables, representing pretend Dr. Gary Young's legacy of these oils that are supposed to be able to cure this and that. And this is the history of the man that did it. Once again, we're going to pull this and say, pretend Dr. Gary Young was a charmer, car dealer, con artist. Yeah. Yes, he was. He was. And the legacy that follows him is very questionable. I wouldn't want my name representing pretend Dr. Gary Young's legacy. Would you? Of the 94% of the 2 million active Young Living members made less than $1. Again, get that through your head. Because while that is true, the company itself reported between 2015 and 2017, they reported $1 billion in profit. So the Young legacy and the MLM that is still going, and the people are still selling, they're supporting the legacy that makes $1 billion where they're not making $1. That, my friends, is the pyramid. Okay? That's the pyramid. Now, in that being said, I believe that I saw SW saying that, or hearing that she was putting those oils in the girls' nebulizers. If somebody can direct me to where they saw that too, please let me know, because she was saying that the oils were helping the girls with their asthma. Okay? She was saying that she was having Chris do steam showers, but she doesn't use like a plural or whatever. She says it real weird. She's like, oh, so they were steam shower again this morning, and they had a steam shower again this morning, and they were steam shower, like that, really weird. But the girls supposedly each had nebulizers then, and Bella was admitted for retracted breathing. That means that you can see the breathing between the ribs, that the child or the person who has asthma is suffering to breathe so hard that their skin is retracting, that you can see with the visible eye in between each rib. Oh, Bella was very sick when she was admitted with her asthma. Now, knowing what we know about this scam of snake oils and the man who invented it and his legacy, would you want your 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old breathing that in a nebulizer? Those oils being inhaled are very dangerous. A TikTok doctor came through, a pediatrician, because so many of the MLM Hun moms were doing this. I believe I saw SW saying that she was doing it and showing that she was doing it. Many, many moms were doing it. They were putting these oils in their kids as nebulizers as opposed to the prescribed medication that goes in the nebulizers, such as albuterol. Okay? It is so dangerous because those oils get inside the lungs and they can cause more problems breathing. Okay? They can cause such a breathing problem that it's a breathing emergency that can lead to death. It's that bad. It's just the same as if a child got into dish soap. It gets in their lungs, clings to the surfactant, and the child suffocates and dies. That's what inhaling essential oils would do. If you or anybody that you know is putting oils in your nebulizer or your CPAP, as others have purported, stop it immediately. Wash out everything. Throw out everything that had the oils in it. Don't do it. Okay? Now, this could be another piece of the puzzle, because if indeed SW was putting these oils in the nebulizer, then she was creating the asthma that she was taking her to the doctor to stop. Okay? So, she was putting them on them on the belly. Many people watched pretend Dr. Gary Young's practices where he said that you need to ingest the oils to get the full spiritual benefit. Okay? So that's where a lot of people are putting these oils in their kids' juice, in their coffees, etc., etc. Do not do it. Do not ingest these oils. Okay? Now, because it was said that you need to do this for full spiritualism, it went out into a different vernacular, into people saying that these YL oils have a satanic element, that pretend Dr. Gary Young was indeed satanic and purporting demonic entities. I don't want to go down that road. If you want to go down that road, you're going to Google while living satanic and oily, controversial oil Satan. You can find it. Okay, I like I say, I don't want to go down that road, but it's very serious that anybody ingesting it stop. It's very serious that anybody putting it in their kids, anything, especially their nebulizers, stops immediately. Okay, so that being said, the facts that you need to know is that 94% of the 2 million active young living sellers members made less than $1. Okay, that should be enough for you not to get into this. Okay, those 2 million people making less than $1 compared to the foundation still making $1 billion is problematic. Very problematic. It is a pyramid scheme to the nth degree. Okay? Now, you are going to say to me, MLMs, Mormons losing money. I saw that on something the other night, right? Well, it is true, because Gary was in Utah, and Utah has the most MLMs per capita than any other state. You say, why is that? Well, LuLaRoe was also started in Utah. Its founders are also Mormon. So you say, well, Young Living was started in Utah as the foundation, not Gary himself with his fake clinics, but he did start the foundation in Utah. So yes, there is that. And they say, well, why is that? Because Monat, Unique, New Skin, LuLaRoe, Young Living, they all market this model that allows the mom to work from home and be with her family and earn money so that they can afford things like vacations and whatnot and win vacations for the mom and dad. In reality, no, that's not happening. Most of the people are making less than $1, but they target the people who are stay-at-home moms. And the Mormons who are stay-at-home moms are really hardworking women who really do work hard for their family and homes. And they are not what SW was. She messed up the concept of stay-at-home mom. I mean, by definition, yes, she was a stay-at-home mom. But the term stay-at-home mom generally means that they're staying home to take care of the family and raise the children and keep the house. Okay, so that being said, when Bonita Barbie talked about her experience with Unique, it made me very sad that that it was as predatory as it was towards women in a battered women's shelter. That disgusts me. I will not support Unique in any way. And I had seen their publications where they say that they help women with PTSD and they have these resorts for women and all of this. And I'm really suspect right now, of that because of Bonita Barbie's story. And thank you for telling that. And I just want people to really think about these MLMs and how badly they hurt families and to really look at the foundation and see, because then you know what somebody's going to slap on me in the comments. I'm just going through what the Shiners are going to say. The Shiners are going to say, no, she sold doTERRA or I sell doTERRA. It's not that. doTERRA is from Young Living employees. These employees that worked for Young Living went off and branched out and started their own. Now, Young Living, I believe, took them to court and said that they did so by taking trade secrets, and it was ruled by the Supreme Court that no, they did not take any trade secrets, and they shouldn't have even accused him of it. But one did come from the other, and I think the whole thing is disgusting. The MLMs that I am part of, well, I can tell you guys, I because I've said this on a Mensa Live, I did sell Tupperware. I love Tupperware. I have used so much Tupperware over the years that I've been on my own and as a mom, and I freaking love Tupperware, but right now it just went through a whole revamping in the pandemic, and it went online, and its shipping and handling is so much, and they messed with the warranty, so only certain things are under warranty and stuff, and I just can't stand behind that. I liked it when the concept was everything is guaranteed, and it was this kind of little thing where it was between friends and everything. Now it's all electronic and whatnot, but I still freaking love Tupperware, and I wish it would have worked out for me to sell it. I mean, I don't think that I could have ever sold it to make enough money to count, and I didn't. I did not lose money. I, of course, I think I've quadrupled my investment, so I'm fine, and I needed Tupperware anyway. All of mine was old. I need to replace it anyway. And the second MLM I'm almost all the way out of, but it's nothing like this. It's a whole different product, and it's mainly because I like it so much that I am my own best customer. So just like Kelly said, I am an MLM failure, if you will, because I just was never the type to just, push it on anybody. And I certainly have never used my children to exploit it in any way. My children, especially the the teenage ones, are all in this thing, where there's this whole MLM, anti-MLM movement. So my teenagers were grossing out and making fun of me all the time whenever I'd say anything about my MLMs as it was. So if I tried to get them on camera to say, buy this, they would have told me to, yeah. So in closing, once again, it was just so sweet to see little Bella saying it, and the sad part is, of course, her mother was making her say it. But now I hope that this sheds some light into what the history and origin is on at least one of the MLMs. And if you're thinking of getting into an MLM, please check it out. Please check out everything with the Better Business Bureau and the Federal Trade Commission. Look at all of the complaints, etc., etc. But my point in doing this was that I believe that SW was in all of the support groups because she was selling products, not just the one that she's known for with the silly stickers. She was also selling this oil to prey on people who were suffering from lupus, to say that this could cure lupus, because its founder says that they have a 90% cure rate for lupus. So with that, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for letting me go off a little bit on a tangent on this subject. I feel it's very important. I have a lot more to tell you guys. You know that. And I will definitely. I've just been super, super busy. This has been a great summer, and that there are so many sunny days in a row. I don't think I've seen a summer like this in a very, very long time, at least in the regions where I live. One of the hottest summers, and we're just kind of enjoying it. I'm taking my son all over the place. So we go lots of places, and little day trips and all kinds of stuff. Just enjoying the beauty that there is outside. And I hope that you all do that too. I hope that you all are really mindful about the upcoming anniversary of the angelversary of Bella and Cece and their mom and their unborn brother, but mainly for Bella and Cece, and that's my focus in exposing what they were going through and how they were exploited, and really kind of be mindful about what you're going to do to do a little tribute to them for yourself, whether it's a moment of silence or to donate to a domestic violence shelter, or just to be mindful of the upcoming angelversaries. All right, on that note, I will close. Thank you so much, and please be respectful in the comments. We can disagree, we can agree to disagree, but any inference of insulting me or anybody will be dealt with accordingly. I'll give you homework, and as I said, shiners, get me the homework. Show me the tax receipts of how much SW donated to the Lupus Foundation per year. Thank you very much in advance for the homework. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.